G'day everyone, welcome to another episode of the Purple Coloured Glasses. In this episode I'll be going through my tips for round 17 and how I think Freo will go against the Saints on Saturday. So starting up, first game, we've got Geelong up against Melbourne. This is a Thursday night game, it's already in progress as I'm recording this. I tipped Geelong, they're currently up by a couple of goals. So I picked Geelong based on my sort of feeling about where Melbourne's at the moment. I think it's a bit similar to last year in that they started off really well, and I think they went 3-3 through this sort of period of the fixture last year. So they came back with a good win against Brisbane and then a good game away in Adelaide. And I think just going away to Geelong, who got something to prove against losing the minor premiership after the siren of Max Gawn last year, and the prelim final, I think it was, by 83 points. So I think Geelong just have a bit more to prove. They're probably looking a bit better with their ins. They've got, I think Dangerfield's the second game now. They've got, Duncan and Guthrie and Selwood. So that sort of their best midfield is sort of all back. Cam Guthrie. And yeah, I just think they'll just be a bit too strong at home. I wasn't thinking it would be a massive margin, just maybe a couple of goals. But Melbourne could snatch this game, and they're a very good team. I think this might be the only game I've tipped against Melbourne all year. I tipped Brisbane to beat them, but yeah, even when they lost those couple, I didn't tip against Melbourne. So I don't think this really changes much in terms of Geelong's or Melbourne's prospects for the rest of the year. But yeah, it sort of opens up the ladder position a bit. So if either team do slip up, yeah, could have a few implications later on. But yeah, we'll see how that game goes. Then Sydney against Western Bulldogs on Friday night at the SCG. Both teams have been very flaky and hard to pick this year. I'll be going Sydney with not a lot of confidence. Sydney have been a bit win-loss, but so have the Bulldogs. So they lost last week, so they're probably due to win this week. Doggies just look like it's really dependent on their midfield having a good day and really covering the deficiencies at both ends of the ground for them. Sydney really should have put Essendon away. A really bad loss for them. I think they'll just bounce back on this one. But, Sydney could drop the next game. You never know. So I think I'll be going Sydney with not a lot of confidence in this one. MCG Saturday morning. We've got, Saturday morning, West Australian time. The early afternoon game over there. We've got Collingwood against North Melbourne. I don't think I need to talk much about this game. Things are really bad at North Melbourne and things are going really well at Collingwood. Darcy Moore's knee injury is not as bad, but he won't play. But Howe comes back in. I don't really see a way North Melbourne win this unless Collingwood have drunk too much of their own bathwater, having won 6 in a row, and half the team don't trot out. Really interesting games, the next one. Well, the next two games are very close games in terms of where both sides are at. But let's start with the Gold Coast-Richmond game. So, Gold Coast been very unlucky, I think, in the last two games. They really could have beaten Port and they could have beaten Collingwood. Just didn't get some of those rub of the green moments, didn't take their opportunities when they had them to put the game away. Particularly last week, they were up by 14 points or so, so just put the cue in the rack or played a more defensive style, try to hold on. And they've been very competitive, particularly at Metricon Stadium. Tigers, they came very close against Geelong. They knocked over West Coast, who did challenge them a bit, to be fair, at stages. Dusty's out. I think Cochin's out as well. No Bolter for them still. So they're not necessarily running with all their troops. They look very good, Richmond, when they do have all their players, but I think they'll struggle a little bit against Gold Coast. Gold Coast, I think, have something to prove. I don't think they're at that stage of, we're too far away from the finals. There's still enough games where you just give it a crack. You never know what happens. Sort of mathematically and historically, they probably don't make it from here. But after two close losses, I think that group will sort of be galvanised. Stuart Dews re-signed during the week, and they'll just say, let's at least make amends and, third time lucky. So I think they'll get it done over Richmond. The next game is St Kilda against Fremantle. I was very tempted to take the happiness insurance here and tip St Kilda. That way I'm not disappointed sort of either way. If Freo get up, I'm really happy. So I tipped Melbourne when Freo went over there and got the tip wrong, but I was quite happy that Freo won the game. But I've stuck with my boys. I've tipped Freo. No changes for them. They go in the same side. Taberner's got it was just what they call it, hamstring awareness. So no injury there. Bit of an interesting one. Our record against the Saints isn't amazing, particularly over at Marvel Stadium. I'm really just hoping that the boys have got a bit of fire in their belly from their last poor outing only a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to play a string of games here at Marvel. So after this, we've still got to play the Western Bulldogs in Richmond, which will be tough games as well. But the Saints are one where, if you think about it, they haven't been in a great patch of form, and you could look at last week's game as, yep, they knocked off Carlton, but Carlton really had enough opportunities to win the game anyway, and then they're on an even bigger losing streak. I think the keys to winning this game for us is really shutting down Sinclair and Brad Hill, and really stifle their ball movement. We've got to match them in the centre, because they haven't brought Meek in, so Darcy and Lobb are going to have to do a fair amount of work against Ryder and Marshall. Howard out for them is a big loss. I think was there another defender out for St Kilda? I can't remember, but it sounded like Wilkie was really their only main tool. So whether he was going to play on Lobb or Taberner, and maybe they're just going to play a bit of ducks and drakes with the team selection. Maybe Taberner's a late withdrawal, but it will be interesting to see how we sort of stretch their back line with Tabs, Lobb, Logue, and even Fife as a contesting option or a marking option up forward. Does stretch them a bit. Where I am probably a bit concerned is when the ball hits the ground. And so I think guys like Hill and Sinclair just scoop the ball up and can hurt us going the other way. I think Frederick, Collier really need to play some shutdown roles on these guys. Maybe sacrifice their own games a little bit, because I think if you take those weapons away, unless they're just getting it silver service from their rucks to their mids, I think we can really shut them down, lock the ball in our forward half, and just grind them down over the course of the game. I don't think this will be a big win for Freo. I reckon it'll only be a couple of goals, but I'm going to stick with them and hopefully a bit of redemption from our last outing at Marvel. Then over to the Adelaide Oval. We've got Port Adelaide against GWS. Port really played well last week over in Perth, almost snatched the game, and I think they'll be too good for GWS here. GWS have been a bit hot and cold, a lot of attacking flair, not really great defensive flair. They've got the weapons to beat Port Adelaide, but I think Port are still giving it a crack, similar to Gold Coast. They've been close in some games, and I think until they're absolutely dead and buried with no chance of making finals, I think they just keep going, even if the odds aren't great for them based on historical performances. I mean that in terms of like they're 2 games out from the 8, so they'd have to string together quite a few games from here, and with their own form, how they've played so far this year. It's something that doesn't really happen from here. But those teams that are sort of between 10 and 6, 10 and 7, been quite flaky, so they might go on a losing streak of 4 games and you might be able to jump over them. Brisbane against Essendon at the Gabba. Cool. Bombers got up, beat Sydney. Sydney really should have put them away. I don't really see a universe where Brisbane lose this game. Very imperious home record in the last couple of seasons in the general home and away season, so I think they get this one done. Even with a couple of guys out, sounds like Daniel Rich is out for them, and Zorko did his hammy in the first 5 minutes last week. They seem to do fine without him against the Doggies, so I think they'll get it done against the Bombers. Then we've got Hawthorn against Adelaide, and Hawks are kind of due for a win. They've lost a lot of games in a row here, but I'm probably going the upset here, I think. Yeah, it looks like only 15% of people or so are tipping Adelaide in this comp, so I'm going Adelaide. They're showing a bit more Adelaide. Definitely in Adelaide as well. They look a lot stronger, but I think they'll just get this one done. It's a hard one to call when you got sort of 2 teams that are no real prospect of playing finals here. It's a bit of a playing for pride game. What youngsters are showing a bit more. So, I'll be going Adelaide in this one. And then the final game of the round, Carlton against West Coast. I do think West Coast are a sniff in this game. Unfortunately, with Sheed and Yo being out, um, I think that reduces their chances significantly. Carlton wanting to bounce back from a bad loss last week. Um, so yeah, I think I'll be tipping Carlton, but not with a great deal of confidence. I think they get done by 20 points or something like that. But if they're off their game, West Coast can hurt them going the other way. Who's going to actually mark Kennedy and Darling? So if you look last week, King and Membry got a hold of their sort of undersized backline a bit. The week before, Fremantle's keys didn't really get a hold of Carlton's backline because the midfield was dominated. There wasn't really a lot of supply, but Taberner was having a fairly decent game when the ball actually got there. And it could be a similar story here for the sort of West Coast Essendon game, where West Coast really just won off really good goal kicking and the limited supply they did have. They were very good at making the most of those opportunities. So I don't see West Coast winning this in from a dominating Carlton perspective. I see it from a Carlton don't make the most of their opportunities, are a bit wayward kicking, and kick something like 12 goals, 20 again to 17 goals, 3. I can envision a game like that where West Coast just kick very straight and just make the most of their opportunities. So those are my tips for the week. Let me know what you think will be the upset for the round. So I've gone Adelaide, and I'll be back next week to review how the games went, and hopefully Freo got a win against St Kilda. Catch you later, everyone. Bye.